Hello, sunshine. I'm Alexi Lalas, and welcome to the State of the Union podcast, where we look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue colored glasses. I'm just all angst up and crazy right now. All right. Anyway, this is an emergency live pod as we have breaking news in that all indications and reports are pointing to the new U.S. men's national team coach being 52-year-old Argentine Mauricio Pochettino, former coach of Chelsea, PSG, Spurs, Southampton, Espanyol, although he has never coached internationally. Joining me, as always, my friend, my colleague, my guiding light, David Mosse, a soccer savant and a Fox Soccer researcher and writer extraordinaire, and our good friend, Fox Soccer analyst, Senor Stu Holden, stepping away from his Mexico vacation to give us his reaction. Welcome, gentlemen. Let's get right into it. Stu, you got your shades on. It's nice of you to at least put a shirt on. I don't know if you have pants on, and I hope you could drag yourself away from the tequila long enough to let us know. All right, Pochettino, thoughts?
Muy bien, señor. Muy bien, muy bien. First of all, thank you for having me. Also, not a big thank you to Pochettino, by the way, announcing this and all this happening while I'm on vacation. But, you know, the things we do, right? Lex, the sacrifices we make. I'm excited. I think there was a list of a couple of people when it first came out. Jurgen Klopp was on there. Pochettino was on there. Various different names. He was one that excited me. I think because of, the pedigree that he has, the teams he's coached. He's a guy that's done well in cup competitions historically. And, you know, people are going to sit there and poke holes in some of that and say, well, serial winner, this and that. Look, this is a A-level coach that was just coaching in the Premier League, has coached multiple teams in the Premier League, coached PSG in France, some of the biggest superstars in the world. And now we'll be coaching the U.S. men's national team. So I think in terms of the names that were out there and the type of coach that we could have gone for, this is up there with the best of the best. And I think U.S. fans should be excited. I'm excited personally at the prospect of Pochettino and what he brings to this group and to this country now as we head into the most important period in our nation's soccer history.
Mosse.
Stu, interrupting a family vacation for this. His wife is probably in the other room Googling divorce lawyers right now.
Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be the first time. So,
first off, ESPN, Fox, and The Athletic are reporting Pochettino, but I'm still waiting for Scarves and Spikes to confirm it. No, but listen, I agree with everything Stu said. We wanted U.S. Soccer to do something bold, and they did. It's a splashy hire, a big name. This is making headlines all across the world. And it's a guy who was also linked to the England job, and nobody would have batted an eye if he had gotten that job. So that's a top 5 national team that's reached the final of the last 2 Euros, and they wanted Pochettino evidently. So I agree. Hats off to Matt Crocker. He did the job here. This is a very good appointment.
Yeah, I think that it's hard not to like this. And, you know, to Stu's point, yes, you can poke some holes, but I think it's even hard to poke holes at this. I think this is great. I, too, am excited about this. I think that Pochettino, to your point, checks the big-name foreign and elite European club pedigree boxes that I know many crave and want. And I'm sure that there's a segment of U.S. soccer fans out there that right now are engorged that he is not an American or from MLS. But keep in mind that no coach is perfect. I'm glad that this has finally happened and we can move forward. And hopefully Pochettino makes us believe that we are heading in the right direction towards 2026. As I mentioned before, this will be his first international gig. When you look at Pochettino and what has given him this cachet and this respect and the success that he's had, it's an attention to detail. It's a philosophy of pressing and possession, but it's also a day in and day out type of structure and implementation of a structure that has resulted in, again, the little things and the details making a difference. He is going to be put into a situation, as we mentioned, that he has no experience in terms of an international coaching job, and he is going to have to, in very short order and very quickly, and unlike anything he's done in the past, be able to impart his style and his information. And I think in a certain way, he's going to have to get pragmatic. I think he's also going to have to get very clear and concise with these players, because he's only going to have a certain amount of days with them. This isn't a day-to-day type of existence like it is in the club situation. And I think that that's going to be a challenge. And if he takes too long, I think that that could be a problem. So hopefully he hits the ground running. I will say this, it doesn't matter who you hire. You need to understand what the situation is that you're coming into. And I hope that Pochettino understands the realities, the good, the bad, the ugly that exist in terms of the team that he's taking over, in terms of the federation, in terms of American soccer, all of those different things. I don't need him figuring that out later on.
I will say, I made this point on Monday's pod. I want to repeat it. When we bring up these big name foreign managers, you always raise the issue of, if you've been coaching super clubs your whole life, will your skills translate to the U.S. national team? And with Pochettino, he managed Espanyol and Southampton, did a good job at those places, and even Tottenham, getting to a Champions League final there and finishing second and third in the Premier League as he did. That was considered punching above their weight, given how much they spent compared to the other big teams in England. So I think he has demonstrated an ability to do more with less, to make players better. So there are some things on his resume that I think are analogous to the U.S. men's national team job.
Stu, when you think about Pochettino, what do you think for Matt Crocker? Because let's be honest, this was ultimately his decision. I'm sure he had input, and I'm sure he had sign off from the powers that be over there at U.S. Soccer. But this was his, big decision. And Emma Hayes, he got that one right. And now with this, I think that all, at least initial indications, this is going to be a very positive type of reception. What do you think that Matt Crocker saw in Pochettino in terms of making this decision?
I think a lot of the things that Mosse was mentioning there, in that, look, these two work together at Southampton, so there's a history between them. So Matt Crocker knows Pochettino, the man, beyond just Pochettino, the coach. And I think that's also important when you think about the group that he's going to be coming into. And what I like is that he's coming into a situation where, look, I want to address one thing quickly, too. There's been a lot of Greg Berhalter slander out there, and I think a disrespect to what happened during his first tenure with what was a very young group. And I think he's laid a very good foundation now for a coach like Pochettino to come into a situation where you have a young group of very talented players that have grown up together, that have learned how to become a team, that have had some decent results, and some of the expectations. Sure, the second cycle wasn't great, but I think what is there, and I think why that this job was attractive to a guy like Pochettino, is that he sees that there's a good base there, and that now he can take it to the next level. Think about Tottenham when he took over Tottenham Hotspur, and a group of individuals that he helped bring together as a team, overachieve, finished second in the Premier League, narrowly to Leicester City, the Champions League final that Mosse mentioned as well, where they lost, conceded a penalty within 6 minutes on a handball, and then that game was basically done. But that's a one-off. I think every team he's been at, he's made better. I think about Chelsea, a group of players that they went out and just bought the most talented, most expensive players and tried to make a team. He made a real team out of that group by the end of the year. So I think you see the makings of a guy, or there is a man there that can take individuals, take different personalities, bring them all together and create a team. And I think now a team that gets results is the most important. And I think that he has the ability. I also think, last point, we get very caught up on managers not having international experience. There's some great recent history of coaches. Lionel Scaloni had never coached internationally before. What did he do? Win a World Cup with Argentina. Nestor Lorenzo, we recently saw with Colombia, the run that they were on, got into that Copa America final. He'd never coached internationally before as a head coach. And then even Zlatko Dalic at Croatia, taking them to a World Cup final, to a semifinal, and everything that comes with it. So if you know ball, you know ball. And I think Pochettino knows soccer really well at a high level, and I think he's going to be fantastic for this group of players.
Mosse, some rumors going around that potentially Pochettino would be based over in Europe. We know that the vast majority of the players on the national team are also playing and based over in Europe. I know we've seen this in the past with coaches of national teams. How important is that to you, or not important to you?
I have no issue with Pochettino continuing to live in Europe. This came up when Brazil was pursuing Carlo Ancelotti, and I found it to be a completely overrated issue there. As you mentioned, 90% of the U.S. squad now plays their club football in Europe. So by living in Europe, he's actually better positioned to keep tabs on all of them. So no issue for me at all. That definitely should not have been a deal breaker, stumbling block if it came up in the conversations.
I don't think it should be a deal breaker. However, 2026 is unique. And why can't I have it all? Why can't I have a coach that not only gets the wins on the field, but inspires and promotes and markets and sells off the field? And if you're not going to do that, who is going to do it? Matt Crocker's not going to do it. So who at U.S. Soccer is actually going to do it? Who is going to barnstorm around and get people excited about what's going on. You'll have the windows then when the U.S. is playing and the media availability and the things that happen. And it should be said, he's not great in terms of speaking English. I'm talking about Pochettino. That's certainly not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think that U.S. soccer has to figure out who that person is or persons are that are going to go around and to get people excited, even if it's just getting people excited now about Pochettino.
But why do you feel that's important? I mean, to me, I don't care what they do off the field. I want a coach that's going to get victories on the field rather than somebody that spouts off the field. I get the idea of like, we've got to grow the greater game and there needs to be a figurehead and talk. I don't care, and he comes from a European background of soccer, Argentine based. Like those guys aren't used to doing media the way that we do media. I know.
So who's going to do it? So who's going to do it, Stu?
But why does somebody have to do it? What if they win on the field?
Okay, so we'll just turn the lights on. Fine, we'll just turn the lights on in 26. We'll blow a whistle and off we go. No, we need to prepare.
26 is going to market itself. 26 is going to market itself.
Okay, so we're just turning the lights on.
It's the biggest soccer event in the history. Yeah. Turn the lights on, win the games, and people are going to get excited.
Hey, listen, I absolutely, I agree with you that nothing is more powerful in terms of marketing and promotion than actually winning. But that doesn't happen until the whistle blows and the game kicks off in 2026. But the preparation, both on and off the field, leading up to 26, I think is what is going to make 26 successful. And while the U.S., I think it's going to put on a wonderful World Cup, it's not without preparation. And I do think that we need people. And again, it goes back to who at U.S. Soccer is going to do that. And I know we're getting a little far afield now when it comes to the coach. And ultimately, Stu, to your point, if Pochettino comes in and this team plays better and this team wins games and, starting this fall with the friendlies that they have, and then obviously next summer with Gold Cup and that kind of stuff, that's all fine and well, but why can't I have it all? And if I don't have it all with one person, Lex, why can't I spread the wealth and have other people?
Define success for me then of what you're expecting to see, because to me, as you said, flick the lights on. This World Cup in 26 is a snowball that's been rolling down the mountain for the last 7 years, and I think it's going to be a knockout success either way. So to me, look, the World Cup is going to be huge as a standalone. The next part of that is the U.S. doing well, and that's not from Pochettino being out there doing media and selling the game. The game's going to sell itself. I want him to get this team to win, and that's ultimately why he's been hired.
Okay. I think there are other ways and more ways to sell it, and while it does sell itself to a certain extent, I want somebody. And again, if there's somebody else at U.S. Soccer that's going to do that, to be the hype person, if you will, fine. But it does need to happen. You do have to get people excited in all of those days and weeks and months when the U.S. team is not actually playing. Oh, and by the way, your coach is living over in Europe.
Well, one day where we hope he's in the United States is September 7th, Children's Mercy Park, when the U.S. faces Jesse Marsh in Canada. Pochettino spanking Jesse Marsh that day would be pretty therapeutic for U.S. fans. But I do want to bring it back to soccer for a second, because there are two people here that deserve some kudos that I think did the U.S. a big favor. One is Pellegrino Matarazzo. If it is true that he was offered the job and turned it down, I think Pochettino is a much better coach than Pellegrino Matarazzo. And then the second group that deserves kudos here is those Chelsea owners, because I agree with Stu. I think Pochettino did a very commendable job last season, finishing 6th in the Premier League, reaching the League Cup final and the FA Cup semifinal. There was no reason for Chelsea to get rid of him, to replace him with Enzo Maresca. That was a ridiculous move, but Chelsea's losses, the U.S. has gained. Incidentally, it's being reported the only holdup right now to Pochettino signing this deal with the U.S. is that Chelsea still owe him money. So U.S. fans have yet another reason to hate Chelsea right now.
Also, now, hey, hold on. The last two Chelsea coaches are on the men's and women's side are both now United States men's and women's national team coaches. So I guess in some ways, maybe Todd Bowley went over there and is just like decided to secretly send them back to help American soccer. So in some ways, I guess, thank you.
Yeah.
When we look at this U.S. team and now Pochettino coming in, the things that he has to do in the short term, and while we can call it a long term, it's really not that long. But we heard Tyler Adams talking about the fact that, or lamenting the fact that they're not, I guess, pushed more. I know I'm paraphrasing here. I do think that not only does this U.S. team need, but maybe even wants to have their ass kicked and wants to have someone that doesn't suffer fools. And I do think that Pochettino is like that. Again, his experience and his expertise and success has come from a day in and day out type of existence. So who do you think ultimately, Stu, benefits most from a Pochettino-led U.S. men's national team? And is it a completely clean slate when he comes in? And what specific players or specific positions do you think that he looks and says, hey, this is good or this needs improving?
Yeah, I don't know. This is interesting. One of the things I do love about a new coach situation is that it is a blank slate for everybody in terms of he will come in with some ideas and he will have watched a lot of film on the U.S. men's national team before agreeing to take this job, because of course you want to see what tools you're working with, right? I mean, and this isn't a club situation where you can go out and buy different players. The pool is what the pool is. And I like that on day one. Boy, I would love to be watching that first training session, because that's a situation where every single player is running 150% trying to make an impression on the new coach to prove that they should be in the picture. So I think one player that jumps right out to me at the beginning is a guy like Johnny, who for whatever reason never felt like Berhalter's guy, comes off a good season in La Liga and then just can't get in during the Copa America. Tyler Adams is playing even though he's on a 45 minutes limitation. I think Tyler will be in there. I actually think in a weird way this is going to really benefit a guy like Weston McKennie, who had to really fight for it a little bit last year at club level to prove himself again at Juventus, and we saw a lift from him. But I just felt really the last year or so in the U.S. men's national team pool that he was coasting. So I think he's going to have to work and really earn and prove that he's going to be a guy in the midfield. So we might get a lift from him. And then I think also, again, it benefits everybody in the striker pool, because that has been Balogun, it's been Sargent, it's been Pepe, it's been Haji Wright. Like, there hasn't been a guy. So I like the idea that once again, these guys are going to be motivated to prove that they can be starting in that position. And boy, he's going to have a decision to make at goalkeeper. Like, who's the starting goalkeeper going to be now for U.S. men's national team? Is it Turner? Is it Slanina? Is it Schulte? Is it, who knows? I just want somebody to emerge in that position that we know is going to be the starter in 2 years.
Stu, you were mentioning that all that really matters is that he wins. Matt Crocker said this summer, I just want to get the best coach possible. And whether they're from the U.S. or elsewhere, they've got to fit the profile, whatever that profile is, which is a serial winning coach. Did the U.S. get a serial winning coach? And if you were to give them a grade, what would you give them? I give this a B+. You guys, Stu, first?
I'm going to give it an A. I just think that, these flies, these Mexican flies are all over me, Lex. It's tough out here.
Well, take a shower for
my
God's
tequila
sake,
sweating. I'm sweating. Look, I think, what I was going to say is we get caught up in this serial winner. And I do think Matt Crocker boxed himself a little bit when we talk about a serial winner, because the reality is there's very few coaches at international and club level that have won consistently trophies. But Pochettino has made, to my eye, every team that he's taken over better. So I think I define that as a serial winner when I'm considering this U.S. men's national team role. And I think what I like about Pochettino is that he's coached teams at a very, very high level. He's experienced a lot. He's done well in cup competitions with what he's got. I mean, he's not rolling into most of these tournaments with the best of the best of the best. Sure, PSG, but PSG have yet to win a Champions League, right? With or without Pochettino. He won Ligue 1. That's the baseline expectation for him. So I like this, and I just think I like it because we have a group of players that are talented, that we need to get a little bit more out of. They need to be a little bit more savvy in the tactical end of the game. And you know what? I also like that we've got an Argentine that can teach this team a little bit of the dark arts, which I also think that we were missing in the Copa America. We were one of the lowest teams in fouls and yellow cards conceded. And boy, we all watched a lot of that tournament, right? I mean, it was the most fouls, the most yellow cards, the most breaking up of play, but just finding a way to win. I want that from this team. I want us to find a way to win hard games against good teams.
All right, so I give it a B+. Stu gives them an A. You said A-, Stu?
A-, yeah.
Okay. Mosse?
I'll go A-. I agree with Stu. It's a bit of a paradox. If a guy is a serial winner, it probably means he was coaching a caliber of player where, again, it would raise your point of would that translate to the U.S. national team. So I would actually rather a coach who maybe hasn't won that many trophies but has demonstrated an ability to get lesser talented teams to punch above their weight.
So you wouldn't want Pep?
You caught me there. Yeah, I probably wouldn't want Pep, but yeah, I think you understand.
Pochettino's not being hired because of what he did at Southampton or what he did at Espanyol. Let's be honest. Come on.
No, but I think even Tottenham, I think his reputation mostly comes from what he did at Tottenham.
Poor little Tottenham. Oh, poor
little
Spurs.
It's funny. You mentioned the players. I was kind of playing around with the team that Pochettino got to a Champions League final, and Pulisic would be Heung-min Son, Balogun would be Harry Kane, Timmy Weah would be Lucas Moura, Weston McKennie would be Dele Alli, Gio Reyna would be Christian Eriksen. So there are some parallels there. I do think, by the way, whoever this new coach coming in was, he's going to have to deal with that Gio Reyna conundrum, because if everybody's healthy, do you want a more energetic midfield with Adams, McKennie, and Musa, and then maybe Gio Reyna gets squeezed out, or are you going to find a place for that luxury player like Gio at the 10? So that is going to be an interesting dilemma for Pochettino right off the bat.
3 in the back, Mosse. We were screaming for 3 in the back before the Copa. Like 3 in the back. Let's get some aggressive wingbacks. Let's get all the attacking players on the field. And boy, that would make me happy. Also, Lex, if you're saying Pochettino's a B+, like who's in your A category here? I mean, is it Klopp and Pep, who we both know we're not going to come?
Why? Well, yeah, they're the A category, I would think. Yeah.
So you were saying we were only ever going to get a B. So like Crocker would have never been able to get an A.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a B, Stu. You must. Well, I don't know what you did over there at Clemson in your 3 weeks that you were there, but All right. So as we wrap this up, I think in general we have different letter grades that we are giving, but in general, I think that we are happy and excited for a number of reasons, not the least of which the U.S. team has a coach, and we can focus in on what Pochettino is going forward. Again, the official announcement hasn't come, but if this comes to be the way we think it's going to be, Pochettino leading this team, I think, and I think you echo, is exciting going forward. Before we finish up, when it comes to this going forward, Mosse, do you think that come 26, because it's less than 2 years, and you guys have both mentioned the realities of coming into this team, how different do you think this team looks from a personnel standpoint with this Pochettino hiring come 2026?
Well, first of all, let me say my A+ hire, as you know, would be Marcelo Bielsa. And Pochettino played for Marcelo Bielsa at Newell's Old Boys in the early 90s. He drinks from that same fountain, Lex. So if I can't get Bielsa, this is the next closest thing. But no, listen, the U.S.'s best players are who they are. There might be a Berkemas or somebody like that who emerges between now and 26. But I think we all know, for better or for worse, what the nucleus is going to be. So you're not going to see very big changes in terms of squad selection. So I think that the changes will be on the margins, and maybe Pochettino will set him up a little bit differently than Berhalter did. To your point, might be a bit more pragmatic. But I think it does raise this larger question of how good is this talent pool. There's a faction of U.S. fans out there that think the U.S. has this super talent and Berhalter was holding them back, and you pop an elite coach in there and suddenly the U.S. can play with anybody and should be thinking about winning the 2026 World Cup. And I'm not sure I would go that far. So I think we're going to ultimately end up looking at this and saying, well, Pochettino might have gotten them a round or two further than maybe Berhalter would have. But I don't know. I personally don't think he's going to necessarily get them up to that level where they're realistically going to win the 2026 World Cup.
Oh, my God. We don't need any of that pragmatism when it comes to the State of the Union here. We need to pump it up and get excited. Stu, last word on this situation going forward. I know we'll talk to you again about it, but we heard your initial reaction, but how do you want to wrap this up when it comes to Pochettino?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big question, Mosse, and I agree with you. We came out of the Copa America, and it was like, well, Berhalter's not the guy, and also more questions than answers about this team and this pool. And I honestly think one of the biggest challenges, and national team coaches do have a bigger influence on this than we think. And perhaps this is one of the underrated storylines of Pochettino being in charge here with his connections in Europe, is finding situations now for these players at the right clubs and situations where they're going to get minutes, because I don't care. We could have the best coach in the world and we could have this talent pool. But if these guys aren't in places in European teams and playing consistent minutes at a high level, you roll into 26, we're going to get rolled. We're not going to have a good result. So I think it's a combination of, sure, having influence in the windows that he does when he's coaching this team and getting opportunities against other national teams in these friendlies ahead of 2026 and then the Gold Cup next summer. That's going to be huge, by the way, live on Fox Sports. But then also for now Pochettino to work with these players and finding ways to get them in good situations where they're improving day by day, challenged, but also continuing to improve. And that will overall improve this team. I'm excited. Lex, the biggest thing you said, I remember it vividly after the U.S. got knocked out of the Copa America. He said, I just want to be in a situation where I'm excited about now this U.S. for the next 2 years. I hope you're excited, even though you're at a B+. We grade on a curve over there at Rutgers. So I'm excited about this hire in Pochettino. I can't wait now for the September friendlies. Who would have ever said that? We're excited about friendly games. This is something to look for, something to be excited for. I can imagine every player right now seeing this news announced and saying, man, let's go. You know, this is really go time. It's time to right the wrongs of what happened in the Copa and prove to us that we're not right about this pool and that they're not elite. Let's show everybody that this is a golden generation. So there's your one for the road to be excited about. I'm excited about this bottle of mezcal I've got that I'm going to hit the pool with right now. I'm going to position myself. I don't know if you can see my camera right here, Lex.
Look at
fully
this.
Clothed, headphones off.
Oh, wait a second. Oh, Stu, into the water. That's a wonderful way to end it. I mean, look, if you needed a dramatic representation, I know some of you were just listening to this, but we just actually had Stu live jump into his, it looks like an infinity pool, so he's really slumming it over there. Any chance for Stu Holden to get wet and strip his clothes off? All right, well, we bring it to you. We bring it to you, whether it's, you know, the actual analysis when it comes to a big story like this, Mauricio Pochettino taking over for the U.S. men's national team, or just Stu Holden jumping into a pool. And we'll finish it here. Yes, Stu, you're right. I can be grumpy. Yes, I can be negative. But when it comes to this, I am not. I am happy. I am excited, Stu. I am excited about the future. I do think that there is a remains to be seen type of situation when it comes to Pochettino, as it would with any coach. And ultimately, the results, yes, are going to speak for themselves. And I do think that when it comes to the American soccer family out there that has been waiting with bated breath and screaming and yelling and wanting something to happen, that this satisfies a lot of people out there. This checks a lot of boxes. And ultimately, when it comes to these friendlies, I think we'll be excited to see what this team looks like. He is, to your point, Mosse, I think going to have to do more with less than he has in the past. And ultimately, his job is to make this talent pool that's not going to change a whole lot over the next year and a half or almost 2 years, but make it better than it has been in the past. Stu is back, evidently. I don't know. What's going on? He's gone. All right, Stu's gone. Mosse, finish it up.
I just want to say we taped a really good pod yesterday where we went over a lot of different U.S. players and their outlook in this European club campaign. So I don't want that to get buried. So if you go in your feed right now, you'll actually find it's a bit of a State of the Union podcast orgy right now, because we've got multiple episodes out there, and everybody should check out both because they actually complement each other very well.
Stuff yourself, all right, with as much State of the Union as you possibly can. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. This is good things. This is good news. This is a step in the right direction to hopefully what is going to be a wonderful 2026. We will see you again and hear from you again next week at the State of the Union. Keep downloading, reviewing, and subscribing and doing all the different things that you do. Keep smashing that button over there when it comes to YouTube, or punching the button when it comes to Spotify, or following over there on X, or all the different platforms out of there. We love that you do it. We will talk to you again, like I said, next week. And until then, and as always, my friends, welcome Pochettino and size the day.